Marty, this is another one of those weeks. We've got a new prime minister since we talked last.
Yeah, he's been our prime minister for 5 days now. Feels like longer, but he's been our prime minister since 11 o'clock Eastern time on Friday.
And now, apparently, we don't have a carbon tax anymore. So that's what we're being told anyway. This is insane. So the Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, as soon as he gets brought into office, you think his first job would be to go and talk to Donald Trump and fix this whole border issue, what's going on with the tariffs and all of that. And what does he do? He flies off to Europe. Very first thing.
He campaigned. He literally campaigned for about 4 weeks on the fact that Donald Trump was the biggest existential threat this country had faced in 100 years. I mean, that's hyperbolic, right? I mean,
yeah.
Like, what else happened to us in the last 100 years? Oh, I don't know, World War II, the October crisis, big events. So it's pretty hyperbolic to declare Trump as the biggest crisis. But if it was, yeah, you'd think he would have gone to visit Trump. I don't think he wants to go visit Trump. He doesn't want a couple of things. He doesn't want a Zelensky moment with Trump, right? Mm-hmm. But the other thing, if you saw Carney this week, his team is going to have to rein him in a little bit, because when you give him a microphone and he's unscripted, he's too egotistical and too sure of himself, and he just talks and talks and talks, and then he lets out all these truth bombs. So I think his party's going to rein him in.
Well, and that's the thing. So, we had that moment. We had that moment with Rosemary Barton, and where was that, by the way? Is that in England?
It was in England. I was at the end of his, his first trip. The first people he met in Europe was Macron. Then he went and met the Prime Minister of England, and then he went and chatted with the King. And then afterwards, he had a 30-minute open press conference. And because he was traveling there, a bunch of Canadian journalists were on the plane with him. And yeah, Rosemary Barton, who we all know, big CBC person, super fan of Justin Trudeau, gave him not a tough question, but a legitimate question. And he didn't like it.
And it was a follow-up. It was a follow-up to a similar question. It was, the question basically of his ability to not have a conflict of interest when it comes to his investments that are happening. And he hasn't
he's skirting the rules, right? He's skirting the rules because he's not an MP. And he hasn't announced, once he announced that he's going to run in the federal election, there's some extremely strict rules, right? Financial disclosures, taxes, and stuff like that. But right now, just as a liberal leader, the rules are a little bit looser, and he's skirting the rules. And that's what Rosemary was asking him. Do you have the clip? Or
I have the clip here. Now I'm not going to play the whole big long clip, because Rosemary Barton, or is this right after?
That's the 30-second where he's talking to Rosemary and saying to her, there's the quote, "Look into yourself." My God.
Complying with the rules in advance.
Oh, is it glitching on me? Here we go.
Yes.
So it's really hard to hear because there's no mic on her, but she's saying, so there's no possible conflict of interest, even though, you're only complying with the bare minimum of the law. It's very difficult to believe, she says.
Look inside yourself, Rosemary. I mean, you start from a prior of conflict and ill will. I have served in the private sector. I have stood up for Canada. I have left my roles in the private sector at a time of crisis for our country. I'm complying with all the rules. Your line of questioning is trying to invent new rules. I'm complying with the rules that Parliament has laid out and the responsibilities of the Ethics Commissioner. and I will continue to comply with those rules.
Well, at bare minimum, that's the whole thing. I love this one because I saw this recently. It was Bill Kinnan put out. Mark Carney releases his first country tune in honor of CBC Rosie Barton. Look inside yourself, Rosie. You'll see ill will in your eyes. Look inside yourself, Rosie. Stop pointing out all my lies. It's very fitting to the circumstance.
So a couple of interesting things. So at the very beginning of that engagement with Rosie in the clip, you barely hear it. He says something and he says point final, meaning, which is a French expression meaning we're done talking about this. And then he went on and on. So he was triggered a little bit and he went on and on. But to me, that wasn't the really fascinating story. For me, the fascinating story is what happened in the following days. Like the Liberals lost their minds. When I say Liberals, like online diehard Liberal supporters lost their mind. They were calling for Rosemary to be fired from the CBC,
which is insane. It's
totally
absolutely insane.
Yeah.
Is it so? I mean, that really comes down to, well, all these people don't really care about finances. They don't care about conflict of interest. It's just team. It's just team play. It really is crazy to me because look at the situation, right? Mark Carney, what has he been discovered to have invested in? He's been investing in heat pumps while the government is forcing people to buy heat pumps. He's investing in all of these green things while where they have these green slush funds happening where money's just filing right out of the government and it's going right into his pockets and the pockets of his other friends that are invested with him.
He was, Brookfield Asset Management. Brookfield's a big corporation, and then then it broke up into two chunks, and one chunk was Brookfield Asset Management, and he was the chairman of Brookfield Asset Management, and he moved the company to New York, and then same thing. While he was in the UK, he goes to the UK. So apparently, the reason he went to the UK is we need to strengthen our relationships with the UK and France. By the way, we do,
which are historically bad because of our bad trade deals, right? This is
absolutely, we don't do any, like, come on, like we do $790 billion worth of business with the Americans. We do $3 billion worth of business with France, and basically that's importing a bit of food and some wine. Like, it's not going to change dramatically. And then so he goes there and he gives this big speech like we need to be better partners. Somebody asked him that. It's like, well, then why, if Europe is so great, if England is so great, why didn't you move Brookfield over to England?
That's great.
Again, so like they cannot let him talk, and they're not showing those clips. Like because the only clips you're seeing, like you and I won't get, like when I went to see Carney in Calgary and I can hold my little phone up, they don't like that. They don't want independent people recording him and having clips. I mean, they're scrubbing down. Actually, all parties are kind of doing this right now. I mean, Pierre is not guiltless on here, right? They said like they're not going to allow journalists on the planes with these guys.
Well, when I spoke to Rupa Subramania, she was on the show, and she told me when she went to there was that big the first Canada First rally that they had. It was large, and lots of people showed up to it, and she managed to get in, but they told her that she couldn't interview the people patronizing the place. You're not allowed to do that. Press are not allowed to interview just bystanders, because I don't know what their logic is. The first thing that pops in my head is that maybe CBC or CTV, they would show up and try to lambaste the Conservatives by finding someone who doesn't understand the talking points or doesn't get it entirely and put them on blast through that.
It's gonna backfire on them, Clyde, right? I mean, like whether it's Pierre, whether it's Carney, whether it's Jagmeet Singh, like if you try and keep us out, the media and the independents like us, we're gonna double our efforts to be in there and hear what you got to say. So
speaking of doubling efforts, so the PBD podcast, we talked about that before, where Patrick Bet-David had criticized Pierre Poilievre for not going on the podcasts, and he had a follow-up. Where he was talking more about that. I have the clip here.
The people who were not happy with what I said about Pierre Poilievre on how much of an elitist he gives me the vibes he is, and he's not going on other podcasts. And a lot of people responded back, and who the hell do you guys think you are? You're Americans, you're this. A lot of people supported the fact that you're right. He's not, he's a World Economic Forum guy, and he's a apologist to Ukraine, recent support of Ukraine, what he's got. And then some are bringing up Max, and Max, he is the conservative guy. He's the guy that some of the guys are excited about, but I don't think he can win. And that's what a lot of people are saying. Here's what I will tell you. The common thread was that politicians in Canada are afraid to talk to Americans because they're worried that the Liberals will use them as hey, look at this guy. They're another person that's owned by Americans, and they're another person that's owned by this. If you're afraid to have those conversations, it just means you're not fit for the job. It means you're afraid. You're concerned. You're worried. God forbid. You're playing politics. Wear this color tie. You know how you watch these movies? What was that one movie with Zach Galifianakis with the other guy that they're running for president with Will?
Anyway, he goes on about that.
Yeah.
That's the gist of it. It's like, yeah, if you're not willing to the problem is it's not that Canadian politicians can't go on American shows. It's just only conservative politicians in Canada aren't allowed to go on American shows. Because I mean, we saw it. Mark Carney, out of the blue, shows up on the Daily Show. Like, why does Jon Stewart want to interview Mark Carney? Like, that was totally organic. And Chrystia Freeland was on Bill Maher's show. I mean, that's all fine and dandy, but you can't go on a podcast as a conservative, or you'll get run down in the media. You're going to get run down in the media anyway. If you're afraid, you're going to lose.
Exactly. I mean, that's like the old, what were they accusing the conservatives of doing last year, of running an American style campaign. So you get accused of that, but then turn around and what do the Liberals do? They invite Hillary Clinton to their convention. They invite, you know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, we're back to another topic that I like. Pierre's not like, I don't know who's advising Pierre. I mean, he's like, it's his to win, but right now, I think we're all watching in disbelief that they're throwing this campaign away. Like, he's got this Ginny Bird or whoever she is that's running his campaign. Pierre, get rid of her, man. Like, get rid of her.
She's gotta go.
And come on shows like yours. Go talk to Viva. Go talk to Kat. Go talk to whatever. Like, man.
Of course, I would love to have Pierre on the show, but I'm not saying Pierre has to come on my show. I'm not trying to do this for me.
Well, I'd rather he came on your show than go on Pat's show in the U.S. I mean, absolutely.
Yeah, sure, but why not? Why not also go on shows that are apolitical? Like, right. Why isn't he gone on shows where it's just young people talking about young people stuff? Because here's the thing: they're not gonna win the vote by stealing votes from the Liberals. The Liberal voters are gonna vote Liberal. And especially after what's been going on. I mean, you just like look at the polls. It is dismal for the Conservatives when it comes to where it looks like it's going. Thanks for gov.exe for putting this up. Kevin put this up there. But it's flipping around. And there's probably some shenanigans going on in the polls, and that's fine. I can accept that. But one thing that's not a shenanigan is the fact that so many politicians, so many Liberal MPs were going on the news and saying, my constituents are calling me and they're saying, I don't want to vote for you anymore because Justin Trudeau is the leader. If you get rid of Justin Trudeau, I'll vote for you again. Yeah. And guess what? They're voting. People are voting for their ridings. They're not voting for the prime minister anymore. Now that Justin Trudeau's gone, they largely don't care because you've pointed this out too. They largely sound the same. They're saying the same rhetoric anyway. So why not vote for their local guy?
I mean, I like at this point, I can't figure out the Canadian voter. I just can't.
But this is the thing. We're everybody's trying to go after the same voting block. Why aren't the Conservatives trying to get new voters? The Gen Z, they tend to swing right wing. They
get the young males. The Conservatives need the young males. Forget about the boomer cat ladies. Like, they're liberal. They're gone back to.
And what are young males watching? They're not watching Bill Maher. They're not
they're watching podcasts. Yeah, they're watching Jordan Peterson.
Yes, and even the ones that aren't watching Jordan Peterson or this show, they're watching other entertainment stuff. When you saw Donald Trump going on his campaign, he was going on these Gen Z shows I've never even heard of, right? He was showing up on their shows and it was young people and they were just talking about, issues that young people have. That is a voter demographic that could win them the election. I don't know why they're just throwing it out and not even going at it.
Yeah, no, he needs to go, and then that's the demographic, and that's also the demographic that's been most affected by the really bad policies of the
That's
last
right.
decade. I mean, that's the people that, like, unemployment in the 15 to 24-year-olds is 15% right now in Canada, compared to like 6% for the rest of the population. So young Canadians in general aren't getting are getting a really shitty head start.
Yes.
Housing is unaffordable. Did you see the news yesterday? I mean, I still can't believe nobody talked about this yesterday. Nobody talked about this. Inflation's at 2.6%.
Yeah.
Like
It's
February
unbelievable.
inflation year over year went from 1.9% in January to 2.6. It's a massive, massive jump. And I'm afraid, and nobody wants to talk about that because everybody's preoccupied with Carney. But man, when are we, well, like, when are voters going to remember what happened? Like, when are voters going to remember that you can't afford your houses, your groceries are sky high? Like, I don't
And
know.
they're trying to inflate our way out of this. You can't inflate our way out of
No,
this.
no.
It's a crisis at hand, and that's the problem, right? So we have record low savings in the market, which if there was no central bank, that would mean we would have recordly high interest rates. That's just a thing. But because we have a central bank and they're able to turn that money printer on and put liquidity out into the marketplace, it drives interest rates down. So the interest rates are really low, but even the lenders are going, I don't know. We don't really want to be lending money right now because it's risky. It's risky because people are seriously underwater, all over the place. And that's no circumstance where we can survive rising prices at this rate. Wages are stagnant.
Yeah, people are underwater and then are being bought again by trinkets. I mean, it's sad. You know, Carney announced last week, actually one of his first executive orders. That was a joke too, right? Like, see how he tried to make it look like he was Donald Trump, like got the red folder in front there and signed something, and then he pretended that he canceled the carbon tax. He didn't cancel the carbon tax. He lowered the rate to zero. The carbon tax bill still exists. He just lowered the rate to $0 per ton temporarily. I guarantee you, if he gets elected, he'll bring it back up. In fact, while he was in Europe last week, he talked about the carbon tax. On Monday, he talked about the carbon tax.
Oh yeah, both sides of his mouth, hey? Like,
yeah, he reiterates
Canadians, he's gonna save everybody money, and then he says that he's gonna raise it, so it's at the European level.
He's still on the old narrative that if you want to do business around the world, the first thing you're going to go to ask by other people is, do you have a carbon tax? And if you don't have a carbon tax, nobody's going to want to do business with you. That's false, Mr. Carney. Like, nobody gives a shit about our carbon tax. They want to buy stuff that's cheap. And so the rumor, I think the polls are one thing. What Carney's doing, I think he's going to get pulled back. Parliament is set to resume on Monday, right? Parliament, like, Monday is March 24th. So Trudeau, when he prorogued Parliament on January 6th, he prorogued it until March 24th. So that's Monday. Parliament goes back on Monday. I'm hearing rumors, but I'll make you a friendly wager that the Liberals are calling an election on the weekend, on Sunday. I'll make you a friendly wager.
Okay, I got a nice bottle of American whiskey on it.
Oh, lucky you. That's worth a lot. Actually, that's too expensive. I can't take your whiskey from you.
I'll get a nice bottle of American whiskey. So the winner, if it doesn't happen on Sunday, if that doesn't drop on Sunday, you owe me a bottle of American whiskey.
Perfect. Done.
Yeah.
Likewise.
Okay. We'll drink it next time.
We'll drink it together. Yeah. But I mean, I kind of, the government kind of needs to go back to business on Monday because the government's out of money. That's one of the big problems that's faced by the government. The
thing is, I'm just tired of hearing it. I'm tired of hearing it's coming. It's around the bend. It's just about to happen. I've been hearing it for 2 years now, Marty. 2 years. It's just
but the pressure is on him right now. I mean, he got a near full. Everybody's doing mental gymnastics trying to defend the fact that we have an unelected prime minister. I get it. That's our constitutional law. It's allowed.
Don't get me wrong. I hope you're right. I'm not hoping that it doesn't happen.
No, but
hope
I think Carney can't keep weathering this. He'll be called out if he doesn't call an election soon. People are going to call him out, like even the Rosies of the world. So, anyways, it's that's our bet, friendly bet. I think actually I need to look. I don't know if you can you wake up the Governor General on Sunday and have her come and drop the writ, or do we have to wait until Monday? Let's make it Monday just to be safe.
Why do I keep hearing Sunday? Because that's what everybody's saying is Sunday because they don't
want to go back to Parliament whatsoever. Like if it's not Sunday, then on Monday morning,
Friday or Monday morning.
Yeah, on Monday morning, the way it stands right now, Monday morning, everybody's flying back to Ottawa, and the House of Commons at 2 p.m. on Monday will sit like it usually does, and Pierre will be sitting in his seat. And where will Mark Carney be on Monday? Up in the peanut gallery somewhere. So it's going to look really, really bad on him. And
Well, so here's the thing: the rumor on the street, and I'm not arguing this. I'm making the semantic joke because it's been 2 years of it's just around the corner. And if I lose the bottle of whiskey, I'm fine. I'll have a nice bottle of whiskey with a friend. But the rumors are on the street that all of these candidates that are picked and ready to go for the next election have already secured their offices for their campaign headquarters. So one thing to note is that they're not gonna even the Liberals that are fiscally irresponsible. They're fiscally responsible with their own money, especially when they have limited supply. And they're not going to waste money on renting an office for an extended period of time if they don't think that it's about to happen. So they believe that it's about to happen. They could be wrong too. I mean, that's the thing.
I even got an email from the Liberal Party. I'm still a member of the Liberal Party, so I got an email from the Liberal Party yesterday. Remember we talked about this last week. They're calling for volunteers to go to a college or a school to learn how to go door knocking, except they want me to pay $35 to go to this college, get bent. But they said
you should do it, Marty, and do the culture jamming thing and go and be like, I can't wait to suspend more civil liberties. And
absolutely. So but when I got another email yesterday, and the email is a little more urgent now. It literally said at the top of I posted it on Twitter. The email said an election call is right around the corner. So I mean, right around the corner, the way I read that, could be up to a week kind of thing. So well, there's no right or wrong. I mean, I'm mixed on this. I'm actually honestly mixed. I am scared that they could strike and go to the polls right now, and Canadians could vote, and we could have another Liberal government. I'm scared of that. And so part of me would rather we did hang in there with Carney as with Parliament going until October, because I think if Carney stays on like this, by October, his popularity will have disappeared. And I think also that the trade war will kind of have ended. He's a one-trick pony right now. I mean, they're capitalizing on him being Trump's favorite. I mean, Trump even went as far as saying he's my favorite.
Okay, I have to find the clip. It's in here somewhere. And that actually happened. So Mark Carney is Donald Trump's pick, according to himself. And I got the clip right here. This is from Jack on X saying, "Wow, I'd rather deal with a liberal than a conservative," in quotes here.
The Liberal Party is going to win now in the next election, most likely. And they were down and out. Isn't that going to make them more hostile to us and possibly
I'd rather deal with a liberal than a
for China, closer to Canada, and that would really put us in a bind.
The conservative that's running is stupidly no friend of mine. I don't know him, but he said negative things. So when he says negative things, I couldn't care less. I think it's easier to deal actually with a liberal.
The Liberal Party is going to win.
So it's easier to deal with a liberal, he says. And I mean, so there's so many ways to take this. Is he doing some 4D chess? Is he trying to be, behind the scenes, like, hey, Pierre, give me a low five, when nobody's looking. I got you. So a lot of people are reading into it this way, that, Trump is making himself look like he doesn't like Pierre so that Pierre can, use that because obviously
he obviously doesn't like Pierre. He doesn't like Carney. He doesn't like any of those guys. I mean, you've seen him when he likes someone. Did you see who he had in the White House on Monday? He had Conor McGregor in the White House on Monday.
Oh, I did catch that. I caught a clip of that.
Know, like when he likes you, he invites you over, gives you the royal treatment, and you're all good. And so
that was for Patty's Day, right? He had him over for Patty's Day. And that was great. And it gave Conor a moment to actually express some of the issues that are going on in Ireland right now on a political level. So that was really good.
What he said about Ireland, you could have said Canada, and it's the same thing, right? He made a plea. Right. Like he said to Donald Trump, "You're our big brother. Please help us, because what's happening back home is terrible. And Irish Americans will no longer have in one generation, Irish Americans won't have a place to call home when they come to visit Ireland." And I'm like, wow. Yeah. I got emotional when he said that. And the same thing's happening in Canada, man. Like this Canada to me doesn't look like the Canada of 40 years ago. But I guess places like Ireland are even worse.
They're no strangers to animus in the White House press corps. This was the scene this week, asking about France. Apparently,
that was good.
The Statue of Liberty.
Something different. There is now a member of the European Parliament from France who does not think the U.S. represents the values of the Statue of Liberty anymore. They want the Statue of Liberty back. So is President Trump going to send the Statue of Liberty back to France?
Absolutely not. And my advice to that unnamed low-level French politician would be to remind them that it's only because of the United States of America that the French are not speaking German right now. So they should be very grateful to our great country.
Mic drop.
Oh, yeah. That was a mic drop. That was a mic drop moment. Because, well, if you don't know your history, long story short, when the Germans waltzed in to Europe or into France, they surrendered. They gave up France to the Germans, and well, Germany was won by the Allied forces. It was not just America that won back France, but it was with the help of America. Now, when it comes to the Statue of Liberty, this is the irony of all of this is France is becoming more illiberal. And when I say illiberal, I mean liberal in the classical sense, like liberty, the whole Statue of Liberty. So liberty's in peril in France. Liberty's in peril in England. Liberty's in peril in all of Europe. Liberty's in peril in Canada. And where is the bastion of liberty? Well, it's with the Trump administration. Yeah, this is why it's so funny. And it's ironic. It's because they're the ones that are upholding liberty. They're shrinking the size of government. They're getting rid of all of its excess.
How come you and I and a few of us are the only ones who see that, right? Like, how come nobody else sees that? Like Trump, like, again, you're reminding me of something. Like, Carney went to England this week and he said, like, Canada is the most European of non-European countries. Dude,
it's not.
Have you walked around Toronto and Vancouver? Like, we're not European anymore, folks. Like, And then what else did he say this week? Like he had another doozy.
Well, it might be South Asian,
Yeah, and then he's standing there with the king, shaking hands with the king. Then he turns to the camera and he's like, "We're proud of Canada. We're sovereign." Like, did you just say that, dude? Like, did you
in front of the king?
In front of the king.
Like, the king, wow. Right. I get exactly what you're saying there. And the whole sovereignty thing, like. The irony of all of this is, sovereignty comes from independence. It comes from the ability to take care of yourself and to be, have other people that want to rely on you even at that point. It's because of the liberals that we don't have our sovereignty anymore. It's not that our sovereignty is at risk. We are not sovereign. We can't, if the US just shut off and said, okay, you want to be isolationist and you want to only deal with yourselves, they could shut us off and we'd be done. It would be over. Yep. Society would collapse. I mean, all it would take is, Amazon services to shut down their services to Canada, and none of our services would work. Like, all of these things that we rely on are U.S. infrastructure. People need to wake up. Wake up.
I did a poll on Twitter last week. And I was being sarcastic. I'm like, to all you Buy Canadian fans, right? Which things are going to be the hardest to give up? and I threw out there like orange juice, internet browsers, Teslas, and something else, and people were answering it honestly. It's like I'm being an ass, like I'm making fun of you guys, because if you truly are going to buy Canadian, you have to give up all those things, and your life's going to be miserable. Like we're but yeah, no, people will give up their orange juice. They'll give up their orange juice and they'll buy. Actually, didn't I think I saw somebody posted.
You can keep your Bell long distance plan though, Marty.
Yeah, keep your Bell long distance. And I mean, we talked about cars, or was it on this show we talked about cars last week? Like, when's the last time we made a truly Canadian car? We haven't made cars in.
Yeah, you brought up that odd. I can't even remember the name.
The Bricklin. Yeah, we haven't made cars in Canada in forever. So
we make American brand cars, and we're good at it, and we should be proud of the things that we're good at. But
did you see what you guys did in Vancouver this week? You have a big car show going on in Vancouver this week. You guys banned Tesla from the car show.
Don't say you guys, because don't include me in on that. Don't include me in
British Columbia. Okay, I don't know who, but somebody banned Tesla from, like, that's insane, folks. Come on, man. Like,
well, it gets worse. Like, so David Eby's government, they're all about the environment, right? They're hysterical about the environment. I guess that could segue to a thing that I do have a clip for. But let me so before we get into that clip, David Eby, he's brought forward all of the legislation to push people into electric cars. He's gone even further with the electric car mandate than the rest of Canada. He's bumped it forward. British Columbia is going to have to get those electric cars. I don't know where we're going to get them from if we can't get them from Tesla, but the incentive program, he just put an exception on the incentive program, because you get a grant if you buy chargers, if you buy
solar panels, whatever,
all of the stuff, right?
Yeah.
They just took Tesla off the list of the items that you get a break for.
Yeah, so BC, Stephen Guilbeault is the same thing, right? I mean, nationally, the plan is to ban the sale of internal combustion engine by 2035, maybe even 2030. And we put 100% EV tax on, or we put 100% tariff on EVs from China, and now we're banning the ones from Tesla. So who's left? Like, we're
here I am laughing at this clip. It's from your Twitter.
Is it?
Yeah, you'll have seen the clip obviously, but I wanted to put this up. So this is David Eby's government. This is how off the chains they are. Warning, super cringe video.
This Victoria. Is warning, folks. Like, don't
BC MP Laurel Carlins talking about climate change and talking about the climate hysteria. The term, she's freaking out. She's not freaking out about climate change. She's freaking out about the term climate hysteria.
I want to start off by addressing one of the comments that was made by the witnesses around climate hysterics. Hysteria, it refers to something that is wildly emotional. It
like
comes
this woman?
from the Greek word womb, of the womb. It is used in ancient Greek to refer to things associated with women. And I hope you'll forgive me if I get emotional. Climate emergencies are not gender neutral. The degradation of ecosystems disproportionately impacts women and girls. And I am wildly emotional.
Yes.
This is the existential crisis of our time. And to hear that we're asking for high ambition is climate hysteria, that makes me wildly emotional. Absolutely.
Anyway, she goes on and on. But like, wouldn't you put aside your petty differences for the environment if it was an existential threat, and get over your disdain for Elon Musk and the things that he's trying to bring forward to get people to do alternative things? And like here in British Columbia, so Marty, I'm sure you know where you're going to go with this. EVs are coal powered, Clyde. Well, in British Columbia, they're powered by hydroelectric, so they are quite green. They are quite green. If you don't,
no, they work for you guys. They're great for you guys. Absolutely.
Yeah, if you discount all the recycling the thing at the end of its life, that's pretty bad. But yeah, when they're not coal fired, that's the thing. So why won't they let go of their disdain for Elon Musk if this is it's because it's not. It's because it's not. And they're having a freak out because they know they can get more political gain from the climate hysteria. It's, I'll invent the crisis and then I'll tell you what my government solution is for that crisis. This is how they roll.
If you were truly interested in solving problems, any kind of problem, you want Elon Musk on your team. Like, hey, Elon, how do we feed more people? He'll tackle that. How do we get to Mars? He'll tackle that. How do we make cars more he's tackling problems is what he is, but he's also but he's a capitalist. I mean, that's the other thing that the left has to, it must be frustrating for them. The great capitalists of the world who've solved the biggest problems of the world are conservative and right leaning. They're not socialists. So and
they're not villains. They're heroes. They're
not
heroes.
Villains. Absolutely.
And it's hard to villainize them. It's hard to villainize a guy who did this, right? Here he is on Fox News, saving astronauts
Elon,
that were stuck in
all,
space.
What a triumph to the human spirit, human ingenuity, engineering. First of all, on behalf of, I know many people in this audience, thank you for what you did for those astronauts today. How were you feeling, throughout the day? I mean, I know I felt butterflies in my stomach and I rarely feel them.
Well, I'm actually usually a little nervous about these returns because there's always some risk that something could go wrong. But thanks to the excellent work of the SpaceX team working with NASA, the astronauts are now safely home. And so congratulations to the SpaceX and NASA teams on excellent work and a huge note of appreciation to President.
Dude, seriously, like the humbleness of the guy, like he's not even bragging. He's not jumping up and being like, I saved the day, I'm the guy, I did it. It's just he's talking the fact. Maybe it's his Asperger's, or it's just that he's humble. He cares more about the facts than he does about the political capital that he could get from that.
I mean, when you watch, hey, dude, I mean, it's on my bucket list. Okay, I want to go to Florida and I want to watch one of the boosters come backwards and land. That's on my. I'm an engineer, man. That's on my really bucket list. That's on my bucket list. But what I was going to say is, when you watch the teams at SpaceX, like when you see the control rooms and they're looking and they're doing everything. Man, the average age of those kids in there is like 27, 28 years old, right? Like if you're 40 years old working for SpaceX, man, you're probably called grandpa kind of thing. But like, it just like, you contrast that with this week here in Alberta, this week, Danielle Smith spoke at the U of A at the law faculty. And the kids there look brutal, and they're protesting Danielle. They all had their t-shirts, their woke t-shirts, their trans t-shirts, they're this, they're that. I'm like, come on, man. You got Team Tesla and Elon solving the problems of the world, and then you got these idiots on this hand. Like, I actually don't know how somebody can hate Elon. I mean, I had a chat with my neighbor last month. I tried to hide it, but I'm not hiding it anymore. She was freaked out, man. She was freaked out about Elon. I'm like, why are you mad at Elon? And she was freaked out because Elon is working for Donald Trump. And I'm like, okay, by guilt by association, I guess. Everything he's done. Like, so if Mother Teresa got invited to the White House, would you guys all suddenly hate Mother Teresa for visiting the White House?
Yes, they would. I think they would.
At this point, I think they would. Like,
that's why my tweet that was sharing that video, I was saying, I'm just curious of how they're going to try to spin this and turn him into not being the good guy here.
Yeah.
Save people's lives with his billions of dollars and ingenuity. Like it's incredible. It gets me excited. It gets me excited to see more cool stuff like that. And what's really sad is the fact that, Joe Biden left them up there in space for political reasons.
Yeah,
for political reasons.
Totally political. Yeah. Yeah, those poor guys, or guy and gal. I mean, that's 8 months in space is a long time, man. Like there's
you lose like bone density, like there's some irreversible stuff that happens to you when you
I wonder I hope they packed more than, like, they were going there for what, 3-4 days? Like, I hope they brought more than 1 or 2 t-shirts. Like, they must have extra clothes on the space station. They can have my orange prison shirt, Clyde.
Yeah, right. That's too good. That's too good. Okay, I don't know
Yeah.
if you heard about this story, but Saskatchewan NDP, they introduced a motion to oppose the annexation of Canada.
Okay. How?
Well,
No, I didn't hear that.
So, so I tweeted this one out because I thought this might be one that you didn't hear about, because you hear about almost everything. It's hard to sneak one past you, but I just had to tweet this one because you know, the argument of the 51st state, that they say that there is no support for it. There's no support in Canada when there actually is growing support for it. A lot of young men are like, you know what? No, the fastest bet to me having a future in my life is to get rid of this government entirely and be with the United States, either move there or make this America. And so I said, you can't have it both ways. Either it's a fringe position and has no support, or it's wildly popular and officials have to propose motions to stop American annexation and the 51st state. This is so like, where are we? Where are we on this?
Yeah.
When the Saskatchewan, because Saskatchewan would be in the crosshairs. Let's be honest. Like, I don't think Ontario or Quebec are in the crosshairs for Donald Trump. I don't think he wants them at all.
No, I mean, he doesn't want, he wants places with resources and quick access to the north and stuff like that. He needs I mean, and we're like, you know, hate to bring up Diagolon, but if you look at Alaska and then you throw in the Yukon and Alberta and Saskatchewan, you kind of get a contiguous strip of land that makes sense, right? And BC, that makes sense. Just throwing in Newfoundland or whatever. I mean, northern Quebec gets them close to Greenland, but yeah, no.
Yeah, but it comes with so much baggage, is what I'm saying. I think
Yeah.
I think the baggage from Ontario and Quebec outweigh the benefits of
Actually, it's interesting because we forget Greenland in this whole thing. Greenland had an election last week and they rejected Donald Trump overwhelmingly. So Greenland had a sort of a referendum, and Greenland still wants to go on its own. Greenland wants to separate. Greenland's basically a territory of Denmark, right? So Greenland wants to go on their own and be their own country, and rather than join the U.S. or anybody else. Which you know, I mean, there's two schools of thought. I think there's nation building and more nationalism, and then there's the other way, which is the post nationalism. And then Carney wants to take us down the post nationalism. You know, a country without an identity, and the Americans are doing the opposite. I mean, God, we live in interesting times. Like, absolutely. Man, my bingo card this year, like Rosie Barton being eaten by the left, didn't have that on there. Donald Trump choosing Carney, I didn't have that. Carney going over to Europe and calling us the most European country, I didn't have that. None of those things, man. Like, this week has been bizarre. Yeah,
really bizarre. I didn't think that we would find out that Mark Carney had a transgender daughter that he's been hiding away for, because and it was, I think it was Juno News and friends of ours.
Candace.
Well, Candace is of Juno, but it was Alex Zoltan that did the article.
Oh, was it Alex? Oh, okay.
Yeah, Alex, and him and who's the other writer? That would be Cosmin de Sorza. I never pronounce that correctly, but Cosmin. So they wrote the article, and I have the link to it here. I'll pop it up here. So exclusive: Mark Carney sent daughter to discredited UK Tavistock transgender clinic, and this was the one that they ended up closing down because of the really bad practices that have come out about this. And ever since then, actually, the UK has been ahead of the curve compared to Canada with getting rid of a lot of these, let's just say, these practices, getting rid of some of the stuff like affirmation therapy, that kind of thing. And what Alex told me about, he said this person, they go by they, them, Mark Carney's daughter, Sasha. Apparently it was she, I never get around the things. She went to this clinic and she was looking for affirmation. And it seems like even at that rate in her writings, because she's a prolific writer about this stuff, wasn't even allowed to have the surgeries that she was after. So it was really interesting the way this all ran down. Now, of course, I put out a tweet when I heard about this, saying, "Is it just me, or does Mark Carney's transgender kid look like a lot like Greta Thunberg?" people got mad at me for saying this as if I was like using it for some political thing. I was just like, wow, just suppose. Like I was surprised that they look so much alike. I
mean, I saw the outcry of everybody trying to get Juno to take the story down. You know, don't go after politicians' kids. I'm like, first of all, the kid's 24 years old, so that's not quite a kid. And I'm past that now. I mean, you know, would I go after a politician's 7-year-old kid? No, keep them out of anything. But do I have the right to know Mark Carney's family and history and some of the things in his closet? Absolutely, I have the right to know that, because it's past behavior is an indicator of future behavior, as far as I'm concerned. And then he's going to have to implement policies that will affect my kids and my grandkids. And so I have the right to know. I want to know. I'm unapologetic about that. I mean, if it was a 16-year-old kid, maybe different, but this is a 24-year-old adult. So get used to it, Mark. We're going to be digging into your background and where and I know he's got skeletons in his closet, guaranteed.
Well, and that's where it comes in, because it's not about you know, rah, you have a transgender kid. It's more about why is one of your daughters, you know, kept secret while you're showcasing another one of your daughters that doesn't fall into that category? Is it a point of shame? So here's his other daughter at his rallies, and she's out there making speeches for him.
Yep.
Meanwhile, the daughter that, you know, is transgender is kind of like hidden, like Quasimodo or something like that. Is that what's going on? And I think people have a genuine right to know about that, you know, especially after the daughters, you know, come of age and all that stuff.
We have the right to know all those things. Like, what school did you send your kids to? Because, you know, Carney, that same thing. Like, Carney last week's like, oh, I owe my education to Canada. No, you don't. You went to Harvard. Like, what are you talking about? Like, if you like, do you believe in the like, I went to a public school here, so I can say I owe my education to the public system. But, you know, people who go to private schools, like, you're a politician and you're sending your kids to a private school. We have the right to know that. And that's a weird conflict. Like, it's not a conflict, but, you know, and then they'll talk about something else. They'll say, oh no, we don't want private healthcare. That's bad. But private school for your kids, that's good, right? Like, no, we have the right to know these things.
Yeah, but where do all these politicians? So this is something that I learned when I had Dr. Day on the show, who ran the Canby Clinic and went all the way to the Supreme Court of British Columbia, trying to fight for the rights of people to seek private medical care if the public system fails them. And I didn't know this, but did you know that politicians, judiciaries, and prison, I don't know why, but prison people in prison are all exempt from this law?
No.
So private citizens in British Columbia cannot seek medical care in a private clinic or a private setting, but politicians can.
Yeah.
So can the judges that were ruling on the case, and so can somehow for some reason prisoners. They're allowed to get private medical care. And it's weird the way the laws work. It's totally weird. What you were gonna say?
No, I was looking at the clock, saying we're running out of time. We'll talk about it in the chat portion afterwards. But I was going to pick on you guys again. David Eby passed a mini emergency measures act last week.
Yes. Yep. And
you guys like, man, I wish you had elected Rustad. I wish you had elected Rustad.
We did, like, Marty.
Again, like, will people not realize what you did by re-electing Eby? Like, holy smokes.
Marty, we did. Yeah. And then some funny business happened, and it really comes down to that. It's really been funny business.
Yeah, for the folks, like, you know, Eby implemented a mini emergencies act, giving himself powers and his government emergency powers to deal with the Trump administration. Of course they do that. Like, no politician will ever let a good crisis go to waste, right? Nope. I mean, got a good crisis, let's pass an emergency
Marty,
measures act.
It's time sensitive, and it's only for 2 years.
Yeah, only for 2 years.
And there's no recourse.
Jesus.
That's where we're at. That's where we're at. But we'll talk about more of this in the live chat afterwards.
Sure.
For all those that are watching this, say it's Thursday morning or whatever time for you, and you're watching the recorded version of this, there's also the live portion of the show that takes place after this chat that we do. And this is where the Q&A comes in, and a lot of people are enjoying it right now as we're speaking, and we're going to get to that. So yeah, if you don't know about that, well, it's because you're not watching it live. And if you want to catch it after the fact, well, you're gonna have to be a member to do that, or you catch it live. That's just the way it works. But I want to encourage people to come watch it live, because this is where all this magic happens. Marty, where can people find you?
Marty Up North on Twitter and Marty Up North on YouTube. And like I said at the beginning of the show, appreciate everybody who jumped on my channel on YouTube last week, gave me a quick little boost, got me to 25,000 subscribers. Appreciate that. But generally speaking, find me on Twitter, folks. Marty Up North.